book of Deuteronomy, chapter 26. It is found on page 180 in the Old Testament. Let us listen for the Word of God. When you have come into the land that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance to possess, and you possess it and settle in it, you shall take some of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which you harvest from the land that the Lord your God is giving you. And you shall put it in a basket, and go to the place that the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. You shall go to the priest who is in office at the time, and say to him, Today I declare to the Lord your God that I have come into the land that the Lord swore to our ancestors to give us. When the priest takes the basket from your hand and sets it down before the altar of the Lord your God, you shall make this response before the Lord your God. A wandering Aramaean was my ancestor. He went down into Egypt and lived there as an alien, few in number, and there he became a great nation, mighty and populous. When the Egyptians treated us harshly and afflicted us by imposing hard labor on us, we cried to the Lord, the God of our ancestors. The Lord heard our voice and saw our affliction, our toil, and our oppression. The Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, with a terrifying display of power, and with signs and wonders. And God brought us into this place, and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. So now I bring the first of the fruit of the ground that you, O Lord, have given me. You shall set it down before the Lord your God, and bow down before the Lord your God. Then you, together with the Levites and the aliens who reside among you, shall celebrate with all the bounty that the Lord your God has given to you and to your house. This is the word of the Lord. Please pray. Lord God, open my mouth that I may proclaim your praise. Silence in us any voice but your voice, so that in hearing we may be obedient to your will. We pray in the name of Christ. Amen. According to the law of liturgical logic, 325 days a year, it's all about God. That is to say that most of the time in our life, it's not about us. We should not be thinking about ourselves. We should be thinking about God. So, from Easter all the way through Fat Tuesday, the first 3 words from our lips every morning should not be me, myself, and I. Rather, the first 3 words should be, Lord, I lift your name on high. Actually, that's 7 words, not 3 words. But it all goes to show that God deserves more words than us. In fact, 7 times 70 words is the acceptable number of words about God that should be leading your life during these 325 days. Because God created you. Because God loves you. Because God's promises eternity to you. And so most of your life should be spent with your eyes setting upon God. 325 days a year. You should be saying, it's not about me. It's about you, God. Of course, that leaves 40 days left over for yourself. A lot can happen in 40 days. during the great flood. And early in Jesus' ministry, he went out into the desert and was tempted by the devil for 40 days. And then there was the time that I tried to grow a goatee, and it took 40 days before anyone even noticed. Anything can happen in 40 days, especially when you take your eyes off of God and you set them upon yourself. Well, we are now a few days into the 40 days of the season of Lent. These are the 40 days of the year when it is an acceptable practice to look in the mirror and say to yourself, God, you had your 325 days. Now these 40 days, it's all about me. Lent is the time of the year when we momentarily take our eyes off of God and we look inside of ourselves to see what we can see. And for many people, this is a prime time sport. They look at themselves and they see the center of the universe. Last Wednesday at the Ash Wednesday service at Gethsemane Lutheran, I was just finishing up my soup and my crackers, sitting around with some friends from some other churches. And a woman walks up to me and she says, I've seen you somewhere. Haven't you been on TV recently? And I replied, well, it's possible you confused me with Brad Pitt. And all of my friends around me laughed, but she did not find it amusing. But you see, that's what I get when I focus on myself. A frowning face and a nod of disapproval. So, on day 1 of my 40 days in Lent, I was very successful in taking my eyes off of God. However, the idea during Lent is not to prove how rude and arrogant you can be. Rather, it is to admit that you have not lived up to the standards of the gospel. And clearly, in those moments, I proved that. So yes, these are 40 days when it's all about me. It's all about my sin. It's all about my brokenness. It's all about my ego. It's all about the way I take care of my body. It's all about my laziness. It's all about how I do not put God first in those other 325 days. So in other words, it's 40 days of spiritual hell. It's 40 days of gloom, despair, and agony on me. It's 40 days of waiting for some Easter joy. But then today, from the Old Testament of all places, we get a little different perspective of what it means to put yourself first. And we learn that these 40 days can be all about you and all about God. Now, the book of Deuteronomy is not usually the book that we go to when we want inspiration for our lives. The book of Deuteronomy is basically an old set of Hebrew laws about harvesting your grain and how to sanitize your food and about personal hygiene, and it's all about the rituals of war. We don't often refer to the book of Deuteronomy. It's like Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 24 says, if you go into your neighbor's vineyard, you may eat your fill of grapes, as many as you wish, but you shall not put any of them into a container and walk off with them. So in other words, you can go into your neighbor's vineyard, steal as many grapes as you want, eat as many as you want, but don't bring any Tupperware containers and carry them back home. That's what Deuteronomy is all about. Then there is this gem from chapter 20, verse 19. If you besiege a town for a long time, making war against it in order to take it, you must not destroy its trees by wielding an axe against them. In other words, kill all the people you want in order to take the town. But don't chop down the trees, you goofball. That would be a sin. That's what we learn from Deuteronomy. So today, Deuteronomy may offer some useful advice for the rampaging militias around us, but it's not always apropos for those of us of a more genteel persuasion. Except for today. In today's reading, Deuteronomy says that once you're done with all of this rampaging, and your life settled down a little bit, and things are going okay for you, that is the time when you are to take the first fruit of your harvest and present it to God. In other words, don't give to God your seconds or your thirds or what you have left over after you have filled your warehouses. Instead, give to God your best, your first fruits. Well, I am no tomato farmer, thankfully, and neither are you. But you don't have to be a farmer to understand how this applies in your life, especially during these 40 days of Lent. Remember, these days are all about you. You can sit around and gloat about how brilliant you are, how beautiful you are, or you can sit around and mope about all your woes. But there's more to you than that. Also during this time, you can do what Deuteronomy suggests. You can bring your very best to God, the very best that you have to offer. These days, it's all about you. And these days, God tells you to bring your very best to life. Well, the implications of this idea are enormous. If everyone brought their best to God in every circumstance, what might that accomplish in the world? If you brought your best kindnesses to every conversation that you had, how would that change your relationships? If you brought your best energy to worship, how would that change your interaction with God? If you brought your best self to your job, to your church, to your friendships, every day would be a new adventure in living. Every day would be something that you would look forward to. It's all about you, right? So if you are offering your best, that tells us something about you. But then if you are offering something less than your best, well, that also tells us something about you. Now, speaking about your best, about offering your best, lately there has been a lot of discussion about lip syncing. I don't know if you watched the inauguration, but in that inauguration, when Beyonce sang the national anthem, she later admitted that she was mouthing the words. She was lip syncing. She said, well, it was too cold out and the voice wouldn't come out right, and so they decided that she should mouth it. Well, she caught a lot of criticism for that, and then a few weeks later, the Super Bowl was coming up, and she wasn't singing at the halftime show at the Super Bowl. And so a couple days before the Super Bowl, she had a press conference because she wanted to prove to everyone that she really could sing the national anthem. And so she sang it there at the press conference, and it was wonderful. Well, lip syncing is controversial, because some would say that it is synonymous with not offering your best. Others would say that lip syncing is the very definition of offering your best, because you don't want to mess up the words, and so you prepare it ahead of time with the music so things can be almost perfect when it comes out. Well, Beyonce and I have a lot in common. And if you watch the halftime show at the Super Bowl, you would know that. Beyonce can dance, and I clearly can dance. Beyonce can sing, and I can dance. Beyonce is on TV, and there's at least one person in Irvington from another church who thinks that I was on TV. And so Beyonce and I are practically interchangeable. In fact, you could say that maybe I am lip syncing at this very moment. Now, I'm not, of course, because what I want to do is offer my very best to God. And I can't do that if I'm faking it. During these 40 days of Lent, it's all about me, and it's all about you. Now, we could sail through these days without a thought about anything other than ourselves, but where would that leave us? We would arrive at Easter without anything to show for it except a larger ego. And we know that the world doesn't need that. Or we could spend these 40 days offering our best. Not faking it, not faking our faith, not just going through the motions, not just offering ourselves halfway, not just lip syncing it, but actually showing God our very best. The best kindnesses that we can offer. The best love that we can share. The best grace that we can give to the people around us. You see, anybody can lip sync. Anybody can fake it. Anybody can offer their seconds or their thirds or their leftovers. All of that is easy. You don't even have to think about it. You just need to put out minimal effort. But God knows who you are. And God knows what you can offer to the world. And so there's no need to fake it. Just give to God your best and expect the best from others. And all 365 days of the year will then be God's gift to you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God.